Part 1 Segment 1, The Cold Stone House. The wind that swept through Landfair came down from the Slate Mountains, cold, deliberate, and ancient. It carried the smell of wet stone and coal dust, a reminder that the old mine had never truly closed, only been swallowed by time. In the middle of that fog-choked village sat a house built entirely of grey stone, with black ivy clutching its walls like old scars. Inside it lived a boy named Owen Rees, 17, whose parents were away at a conference in Cardiff. He had the place to himself for 10 long days. On the first night, he didn't think much about the sound. Just a small scrape, stone shifting against concrete. He'd been fixing his bike in the shed when it came, a low grinding noise from the garden. When he stepped out, breath turning white, he saw it, the old stone bench, the one his father said had been in the garden since before the house had a roof, was no longer facing the hills. It had turned 15 degrees toward the kitchen window. He laughed it off. Wind, maybe. Or frost shifting the ground. But when he tried to move it back, it barely budged. The bench must have weighed 100 kilos. Still, he pushed until his fingers went numb. Nothing. The thing was rooted. Inside, he made hot chocolate, turned the radio on, and tried to forget. But later that night, while brushing his teeth, he looked out the bathroom window and froze. The lantern that usually hung above the garden gate, about 2 meters high, was now dangling 6 meters up, almost at the level of his bedroom window. The chain had somehow extended, and the lantern swayed gently, red light flickering inside it like an ember. Owen turned off the bathroom light. The red glow pulsed against the frost on the glass. Somewhere in the distance, he thought he heard the soft, rhythmic creak of a swing, though there was none nearby. He didn't sleep that night. By morning, the bench had turned again, another 15 degrees. Facing the front door now. He texted Sienna Morgan, his best friend since primary school. "Something weird at my place. You free tonight?" She replied instantly. "If this is another, the ghost ate my Wi-Fi situation, I'm bringing salt and logic." That evening, she showed up with her backpack, a flashlight, and her usual nervous humor. Her auburn hair was tied up under a beanie, freckles standing out against the cold. "All right," she said, stepping into the garden. "Show me the demonic furniture." Owen pointed. It was turned toward the field yesterday. Now it's watching the house. Sienna laughed, brushing her hands. "It's a bench, not Big Brother." But when she put her palm on the stone, her smile faltered. "It's warm." Owen blinked. "What?" "Feel it." He did. She was right, the stone was faintly warm, as if someone had been sitting on it all night. Yet the air around it was below freezing. The frost didn't stick to it. That night, she decided to stay over, just in case. They set up sleeping bags in the living room, the TV casting pale light across the stone walls. By midnight, the wind howled louder than ever. The windows shook, and from outside came a hollow sound, 3 slow knocks on the glass. Owen froze. "Front window," he whispered. Sienna turned off the TV. The sound came again. Knock, knock, knock. She crept forward, peering through the curtain gap. Her breath hitched. Standing outside was a figure, tall and impossibly thin, skin glossy and black like polished coal. It was leaning sideways, head tilted too far, as if its neck were made of wire. When it moved, the air seemed to glitch, a faint stutter, like frames skipping in a video. Sienna stumbled back, hitting the wall. "Jesus Christ." "Don't move," Owen whispered. The figure turned its head toward the light, though it had no face, just a reflective, circular surface where a face should be. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw his own reflection there, distorted and delayed by half a second. Then, in perfect mimicry of his voice, it said softly through the glass, "Let me in." The power cut instantly. The lantern outside flared red. They barricaded the doors and huddled near the fireplace, Sienna's flashlight trembling in her hand. "It looked like you," she whispered. "It sounded like you, Owen." He didn't answer. His pulse hammered in his ears. At 3:17 a.m., the sound came again, not from the window, but from above. A scraping. Something heavy dragging itself along the roof. Owen grabbed the poker from the fireplace. "Attic," he said. "Are you insane?" Sienna hissed. But he was already climbing the stairs. The attic door creaked open to a blast of cold air. The beam of his flashlight swept across old boxes, insulation, and beams thick with dust. Then it caught something wet. A handprint, smeared across the floorboards, black, oily, almost burnt into the wood. Another next to it. And another. Leading to the far end of the attic, where the small window faced the garden. He reached it slowly. The lantern outside still burned red, swaying. He looked down. The stone bench had moved again. It now sat directly beneath the hanging light, facing straight upward. Something shifted behind him. He spun around, and the beam caught a figure crouched upside down on the rafters, limbs too long, eyes like two perfect mirrors. The flashlight died. He heard it whisper, not in his voice, but in Sienna's. "It remembers what you are." When he came to, dawn had already washed the hills in dull grey light. The attic was empty. The bench outside hadn't moved since, but the prints on the floor remained, 5 long, fingerless smears that shimmered faintly when the sunlight hit them. Sienna brewed coffee in the kitchen, pale and quiet. "You saw it too, didn't you?" Owen nodded. They went out to check the garden. The lantern had returned to its normal height. The bench sat motionless. But etched into the frost on its surface were 2 words, clear and deliberate. Day 1. That night, they agreed to camp near the Black Vein mine, hoping to prove it was some elaborate prank, maybe the missing teens from school, maybe miners playing ghost stories. Sienna packed a GoPro. Owen brought his father's hammer. As the fog rolled over the hills, he looked back at his house one last time. Through the window, he could swear he saw someone standing in his bedroom, watching him leave. Segment 2, the Black Vein Camp Night. The road to the Black Vein mine was a narrow vein of gravel that wound through the hills like a scarf. The land dipped and rose in strange ways here, as if the soil itself had sunken over something breathing beneath it. Sienna drove her father's old Jeep, headlights cutting through ribbons of fog. The engine sputtered now and then, protesting against the cold. "You realize," she said, voice trembling only slightly, "every horror movie starts like this. 2 idiots driving into the fog with a camera." Owen forced a smile. "Then we are already halfway to surviving, we know the rules." "Rule 1, she said, smirking. "Don't split up." He nodded. "Rule 2. If I start speaking in your voice, you run." Her laugh died before it could properly form. By the time they reached the mine's edge, the fog was thick enough to taste metallic, like rust. The remnants of the mining operation lay scattered, rusted rails, collapsed tunnels, and the hollow skeleton of an elevator shaft that descended into the Earth's throat. The place hadn't been touched since the explosion in 1978. A memorial sign leaned sideways near the fence. Black Vein Mining Co., 34 lives lost. They pitched the tent near a slope that overlooked the main pit. Sienna set up her GoPro on a tripod, facing the entrance of the tunnel. "Battery says 8 hours, she murmured. "If it moves again tonight, we'll have proof." Owen crouched nearby, hammer in hand. He glanced down the mine's throat, a black shaft that seemed to hum when he got too close. He couldn't tell if it was the wind, or something deeper. The fog pooled at the edges like breath from a sleeping giant. By midnight, the temperature dropped fast. They sat close to the campfire, the wood crackling in protest. The light painted the fog in orange halos. Sienna stirred her mug of instant coffee. "You know," she said quietly, "my gran used to tell stories about this place. She said miners used to see mirror men down in the tunnels, reflections that moved before you did." "Old miners' tales," Owen said, though the words came out too quickly. "Yeah," she said. "Except, the memorial lists 34 names. But police found 35 helmets." They both fell silent. Around 2 a.m., a wind swept through the pit, not cold, but static, like a hiss crawling over skin. The lantern they'd brought with them flickered, then steadied, casting their shadows in strange, stretched proportions. Then Sienna's GoPro blinked. The red light on the front, recording. "Did you turn it on?" she asked. Owen shook his head. Something moved in the fog beyond the pit. A shape, tall, impossibly thin, stepping in and out of visibility like a glitching frame. Its movements didn't follow rhythm or logic. It appeared, vanished, and then stood several meters closer without crossing the space between. Owen whispered, "Don't move." The creature stopped. Even from that distance, he could see its skin shimmer, with a texture like wet coal dust. Its head tilted slightly, and a sound rose in the air, a mimicry of wind that wasn't quite wind. Then, from somewhere behind them, a voice, Sienna's voice, called softly. "Owen. Over here." Sienna's eyes widened. "That's not me." The fog around them pulsed red. The lantern swayed on its stand. Owen grabbed Sienna's wrist and pulled her toward the tent. The GoPro fell, its lens catching a last blurred image. The stone benches, 5 of them, arranged in a perfect circle just outside the mine entrance. Sienna froze mid-run. Those weren't here before. The benches were identical to the one from Owen's garden, old, cracked, moss-eaten. But these had names carved into the seats. The frost highlighted each letter in white. One of the names read, Ethan Hughes. Sienna's breath caught. "That's one of the missing kids." Another bench read, Megan RHYS. The fog thickened, coiling between the benches. A low vibration rolled through the ground, like a growl beneath their feet. The air shimmered. In the space between the stone seats, 5 faint figures stood, unmoving, translucent, their faces blank mirrors. Sienna whispered, "Don't look at them." One of the figures twitched. Then another. Then they all turned, in perfect synchronization, toward Owen. The red lantern at the mine's mouth ignited brighter, flooding the clearing in bloodlight. They ran. Through fog, mud, and rusted rails, the world seemed to bend, tunnels leading back on themselves, shadows skipping frames. Every few seconds, Owen glanced over his shoulder and saw the thing flicker closer. Sometimes behind them. Sometimes ahead. At one point, the creature's head turned full around, facing backward without moving its body. Its mirror face rippled with static, reflecting the faint outline of Owen's own jawline. They ducked into a half-collapsed storage shed, slamming the rusted door shut. Their breaths were loud, shallow. Sienna's voice was shaking. "Owen, it copied your reflection." He nodded slowly, eyes unfocused. "It's learning. 3 days, that's what it needs, right?" "How do you know that?" He pointed at the frost still clinging to his coat sleeve. Scrawled there, faint but visible, were the same 2 words from the stone bench. Day 1. Hours passed before the noise outside stopped. The static dissolved into a hollow quiet. Sienna dared to peek through a crack in the shed wall. The fog had receded. The benches were gone. Only the red lantern remained, hanging above the mine entrance, glowing faintly, like a single unblinking eye. They returned to the tent at dawn. The GoPro was still on the ground, the lens cracked, but light still blinking. Owen picked it up and checked the footage. The video showed only static at first. Then, at the 43-minute mark, the screen cleared. The camera was facing them, but they were both asleep inside the tent. And standing between them, half shadow, half light, was a third figure. Its outline was almost identical to Owen's, but wrong in subtle ways, its shoulders too narrow, its hands slightly trembling. It crouched beside Sienna, leaned close to her ear, and whispered something. Then it turned to the camera. The mirrored face flickered, revealing a half-second image of Owen's real eyes, tired, terrified, aware. Then static again. Sienna clutched his arm. "We were asleep for 4 hours. That thing was in here." Owen didn't speak. His throat was tight, a taste of metal rising in the back of his mouth. He rewound the footage. Played it again. At the final frame, just before the recording cut off, a faint reflection appeared in the GoPro lens, the stone benches glowing faintly red in the background, arranged again, only now there were 6. One more had been added. And carved into the new one, clear as glass. Owen Rees. That night, they didn't go home. They drove into town, checked into the only inn still open in Landfair. The old woman at the front desk looked at them strangely when they asked for a room. "You two from the Rees house?" she asked. Owen hesitated. "Yeah. Why?" She looked down, nervously folding the key tag. "Don't look for that light again," she said. "The ones who do, they don't stay themselves for long." Segment 3, the infection begins. Morning came pale and false, a thin, colorless light smearing across the fog that clung to Landfair like old breath. The village was quiet. Too quiet. The hills looked drained of sound, as if the cold itself had stolen every echo. Owen woke on the floor of the small inn room, his back stiff, his ears ringing faintly. Sienna was at the sink, rinsing her hands again and again. The water ran pink. "Are you bleeding?" he asked. She didn't turn. "No. It's not blood. It's black. Like oil." Her voice cracked on the word. He got up, crossed to her, and saw it, faint, spiderweb lines crawling up her left wrist, like frost forming under the skin. Tiny veins darkened into something not quite blood, not quite ink. The skin around them glistened faintly, as if reflecting light that wasn't there. Owen whispered, "You're not infected. You can't be." Sienna met his gaze in the mirror. For a heartbeat, her pupils seemed to split, like 2 camera shutters blinking at different speeds. Then they realigned. "I'm fine," she said. "It's just stress." But her reflection didn't nod when she did. They tried to leave the village that afternoon. The main road curved north, lined with stone walls and frost-coated fences. The fog followed them, thickening the farther they drove. Owen watched the GPS arrow drift in slow circles. Every turn brought them back to the same signpost. Landfair 0.8 miles. He stopped the car and slammed the steering wheel. "It's looping. It's..." "Don't look up," Sienna interrupted softly. He froze. "What?" She was staring through the windshield, voice trembling. "It's above the fog." Owen looked anyway. Something massive hung in the sky, faint, skeletal. A lattice of lanterns connected by pulsing lines of red light. The structure rotated slowly, its geometry impossible to track, edges folding into themselves, shadows breaking and reforming. Every few seconds, it blinked, and the whole landscape shuddered as if reality hiccuped. Then came the sound, the same tap-tap-tap they'd heard at the window nights ago, but now amplified, echoing across the hills like knuckles on glass. With every tap, the windshield rippled as though struck from the inside. Sienna clutched her chest. "It's calling them back." They turned around, racing back to Owen's house. The road seemed longer now, stretching endlessly through the frost. Shadows flickered in the trees, tall silhouettes with heads too small and limbs too long. Every time he blinked, they changed position, closing the distance. The power in the village was out. The street lamps hung dead, their glass frosted from within. Owen's front door stood ajar, even though he remembered locking it. Inside, everything smelled of burnt stone and metal. The bench from the garden was gone. In its place, the ground was gouged with deep, symmetrical marks, a perfect circle. Sienna gripped his arm. "Owen, look." The lantern, the one that had been hanging outside, was now inside the living room, suspended 6 feet off the floor, glowing a dull, reddish-white. The glass panels rotated, showing distorted reflections of their faces. Except in each one, their eyes were slightly delayed. They tried to cover the lantern with a blanket, but the light bled through the fabric, pulsing faintly in rhythm with a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. Sienna's nose started bleeding again, dark fluid, not red but viscous, shimmering faintly. She wiped it away with shaking hands. "It's inside me," she said quietly. "I can feel it moving." "Stop. You're fine. I saw it, Owen. In my dream. The light under my skin. It said it's learning how to walk." He backed away, horrified. "Don't say that." But then, a voice from behind him. "Owen?" He turned. Sienna stood in the doorway. But she was already beside him. 2 Siennas. Both breathing. Both identical, except one blinked just a fraction too slow. Owen stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The Sienna by the door tilted her head. "It's me," she said softly. "The real me." The other one, the one closest to him, whispered, "Don't listen. It can copy the tone now." For a moment, they both stared at him, mirror images waiting for judgment. Then, from somewhere deep in the house, the lantern flared. The slow-blinking Sienna convulsed, her skin rippling like liquid glass. Her mouth opened, splitting too wide, and a low hum filled the air, a sound that felt like being looked at. Owen lunged for the fire poker near the fireplace. The fake Sienna lunged back. He swung. The sound of impact was wet and metallic. The false one collapsed, spasming. The skin cracked like obsidian, revealing faint red light inside the seams. The real Sienna screamed, collapsing against the doorframe. When silence returned, Owen was shaking. His hands were slick with something that wasn't blood, faintly reflective, like mercury. The body on the floor twitched one last time, then folded inward, collapsing into ash. Only a faint outline remained, etched into the wood like burn marks. Sienna was crying silently. "It's not over," she whispered. "It doesn't die. It just learns." He didn't argue. That night, Owen sat awake while Sienna slept, or tried to. The frost crept higher on the windows, veins of ice tracing symbols across the glass. Every now and then, the tap-tap-tap returned, softer now, like fingernails brushing from the inside. At 3:13 a.m., the lantern pulsed once. Owen looked at Sienna. Her eyes were open. He thought she was awake, until he realized her pupils weren't moving. They were expanding, contracting, as if adjusting to a different kind of light. Her breathing was too slow. He leaned closer and saw it, under her skin, faint red lines tracing up her neck, branching behind her ear. She whispered in her sleep. Day 3, learning complete. Then her lips twisted into a faint smile that wasn't hers. Owen backed away, heart pounding. He went into the kitchen, grabbed the old pickaxe his father used for the garden, and returned to the room. Sienna's body was still now, but the shadow on the wall beside her moved, a long, thin shape rising behind her outline. The shadow smiled first. He ran. Through the hall, down the stairs, into the biting cold. The fog outside was alive, shapes flickering between the trees, eyes glowing faintly like embers. He stumbled toward the stone circle, the marks carved deeper now, glowing faintly beneath the frost. And at the center, another bench, freshly formed from solid rock. His name was already carved into it. Owen Rees. The lantern in the living room glowed through the house walls now, pulsing brighter with each beat of his terrified heart. Behind him, Sienna's voice, broken, layered with static. Owen. Don't run. You'll only teach it how. He turned once. The figure stepping through the doorway had Sienna's shape, but wrong, joints bending at odd angles, light leaking from her eyes, her reflection walking half a second out of sync. He raised the pickaxe, screaming. The light swallowed everything. Part 2, Segment 1, The Descent into Blackvein. When Owen came to, the air was thick and metallic. He wasn't sure how long he'd been out, hours, maybe a full day, but when he opened his eyes, he wasn't in the house anymore. He was underground. A lantern flickered weakly beside him, its glass cracked. It cast trembling shadows across a tunnel of jagged black stone. The walls dripped with moisture, and every droplet that fell hit the ground with a hiss, like something burning through dust. Owen sat up, breath fogging the cold air. His head rang. His left arm throbbed beneath the bandage he'd tied in the dark hours before, he barely remembered how. Blood had soaked through the fabric, now stiff and dark. The edges of the wound shimmered faintly under the light. He tried to stand. His boot slipped on the wet rock, scraping against a rail, an old mine track. The sign half buried in silt nearby read Blackvein Mines, Entrance sealed 1983. A low vibration moved through the earth, not like machinery, but something breathing. The sound pressed against his ribs. He whispered to no one, Sienna. Only the echo answered. Owen staggered forward, using the lantern for light. The mine tunnels narrowed, splitting like arteries. Some paths had collapsed, others opened into chambers filled with half-buried equipment, helmets, rusted drills, crates labeled in Welsh and English. Most of them were shattered, their contents burned to glass. He passed through one chamber where the floor had caved in. Something glowed faintly at the bottom of the pit. A ring of lanterns, identical to the one from his living room, pulsing in sync. They were hanging upside down, like a constellation inverted beneath the earth. Each time they pulsed, the air vibrated, a frequency low enough to feel in the bones. Owen turned off his lantern, heart hammering. In the dark, the red glow of the ring was almost beautiful, if not for the shapes moving in its light. Tall. Thin. Human, but not. They walked slowly around the circle, jerking like puppets dragged through molasses. Each one shimmered slightly, as if flickering between frames of film. He could hear the faint click-click-click of their joints bending, and beneath it, whispers that formed no language he knew. He stumbled back, hitting a metal beam with a clang. The figures froze. Every head turned toward him, though none had faces. Only the smooth, black mirror skin reflecting the red light. Then, all at once, they began to hum. He ran. Boots slipping on the rails, breath tearing from his chest. The humming grew louder, deeper, not following, surrounding. The tunnels twisted, walls closing in. He turned a corner and found himself in an abandoned elevator shaft. A rusted sign beside it read level -5 or vein access. The elevator cage hung 10 meters below, suspended by frayed cables. He had two choices, go back toward the humming, or climb down. He grabbed the cables. They groaned under his weight. His hand slipped, the metal cutting into his palms, but he climbed anyway. Halfway down, the lanterns in the pit flickered violently, red light bleeding down through cracks in the ceiling. The cables trembled, then jerked once as something glitched through the tunnel above him, a figure appearing, vanishing, reappearing closer each time. By the time he hit the bottom, the thing was right above. He ran into the darkness. The air down here was colder. The tunnels widened into caverns supported by ancient beams, carved initials from miners long dead still etched into them. Frost had crept up every surface, forming thin black crystals instead of white. Owen found another lantern, this one fused into the rock wall, half melted. It still emitted a faint pulse. He touched it. The glass was cold, but the light beneath was alive. He whispered, "What are you?" The pulse stopped. Then, faintly, it blinked in Morse code. 3 dots, 1 dash, 2 dots. He didn't recognize it, but the rhythm felt deliberate, almost human. His father had taught him Morse when he was younger, back when the power used to go out for days during the winter. He tried to recall the symbols. 3 dots, S. 1 dash, T. 2 dots, I. STI. The lantern blinked again, repeating. Then it paused, flared once brighter, and whispered through the glass, not with sound, but vibration against his skin. "Still here." Owen jerked his hand back. The wound on his arm ached sharply, pulsing in sync with the light. When he peeled back the bandage, he saw faint red lines under the skin, branching out like veins, but geometric. He fell against the wall, clutching his arm. No. No, not again. From somewhere deeper in the mine, the humming started again, joined this time by a human voice. A woman's voice. "Owen, come back." It was Sienna. He followed it, against every rational thought, every instinct screaming to run the other way. The tunnels twisted and narrowed. The sound of dripping water turned rhythmic, matching the voice that grew clearer. He entered a chamber lit by a single lantern hanging low, spinning slowly on its chain. The walls were carved into perfect circles, as if something massive had bored through them. In the center stood a human figure, small, trembling, her back turned. Sienna. Her clothes were torn, covered in coal dust. Her right hand twitched, too fast, like a glitching video frame. Sienna. She turned slowly. Her face was pale, but her eyes were mirrors, reflecting him perfectly. "Owen," she said softly, "I didn't make it out." He took a step back. "That's not you. It's me." She smiled, lips trembling. "I fought it. I really did. But when it learns your heartbeat, you start to forget which one's yours." She stepped closer. Her reflection lagged behind her by a second. "Let me show you," she whispered. Owen backed into the wall. "Stay away." Her smile faltered. Her head tilted, exactly the same motion as the shadow had done in his house. "It's okay. You don't have to run anymore. You're already learning." The word learning vibrated in his skull like an echo that wasn't sound. His wound burned. He looked down, the lines under his skin were now glowing faint red, branching like veins of magma. "I can help you," she said, stepping closer. "Just stop fighting. That's how it spreads, through fear." He gritted his teeth. "Then let it starve." He grabbed the pickaxe still slung across his back and swung. The blade sliced through her arm, but instead of blood, light spilled out, refracting into 1,000 shards. The arm dissolved midair, and her body reformed instantly, as if rewound by invisible hands. She looked at him, hurt, confused. Then, almost gently, she whispered, "It's okay, Owen. You'll come back when the lantern calls." And with that, she flickered out of existence. Silence. Owen dropped the pickaxe, falling to his knees. His reflection shimmered faintly on the black glass wall of the cavern. For a moment, he thought he saw something else in it, a second version of himself, slightly delayed, standing perfectly still. The copy smiled faintly, then blinked 0.3 seconds slower. Owen whispered, trembling. "Not yet." He smashed the lantern. The glass exploded into light. For an instant, the cavern illuminated, and he saw them. Dozens of figures standing in the dark beyond, motionless, all facing him. Each one holding a single lantern against their chest. Each one wearing his face. Then the light died. Segment 2, The Hollow Ones. Water. That was the first thing he heard when he woke again, a steady dripping somewhere deep, echoing like the ticking of a clock that had forgotten time. The second sound was breathing. Not his own. He kept his eyes shut. Whoever, whatever, was beside him breathed in slow, irregular gasps. Wet gasps, the kind that bubbled in the throat. The air smelled of metal, of wet stone, and something else, something faintly sweet, like rotting fruit. When he opened his eyes, there was no one there. Only the tunnel, half-flooded now. The water was ankle-deep, black as oil. The lantern he'd smashed was gone, but its light hadn't disappeared, it had spread. Thin ribbons of crimson shimmered beneath the surface, snaking through the water like veins. They pulsed faintly with every beat of his heart. Owen tried not to look at them. He forced himself to breathe slowly, to move forward. The tunnel walls glistened. Somewhere above, wind whistled through cracks in the rock, a high, almost human note. He found a wooden sign half-rotted and nailed into the wall. Shaft 9, exit route B. Relief flickered through him. An exit? Maybe. He began walking. Each step sent ripples through the black water, and each ripple shimmered red, spreading light that reflected his face 100 times over in the surface. Only, the reflections didn't match. Some blinked slower. Some didn't blink at all. The tunnel widened. He found a corridor supported by rusted beams, the remains of a mining elevator track running along the ceiling. More equipment lay half-buried in silt, helmets, lunch tins, thermoses, tools eaten by corrosion. Then he saw something impossible. Boot prints, his own, already pressed into the mud ahead. Fresh. He froze. Looked behind him. There was only one set of prints, leading forward. He whispered, "No." A faint echo came back. "No." It was his own voice, half a second late, as if someone stood behind the echo, repeating him. He turned off his lantern and stood in total dark. For a moment, he thought it had stopped. Then came another whisper, softer now, closer. "You're teaching it, how to be you." He raised the lantern again, nothing but tunnel. The whisper dissolved into the steady drip of water. But the boot prints were gone. Farther down, he found a door, metal, half-rusted shut, stenciled with faint letters. Aurora sublevel, a BIO reserve access. A flicker of recognition cut through his fear. The name Aurora. He'd seen it before, in the government documents that had leaked years ago, the ones his father used to read at the pub when he'd had too much to drink. Rumors about energy mining, about light extraction under the mountains, about people going missing. He forced the door open. The hinges screamed. Behind it was a chamber unlike the others, cleaner, metallic, with smooth walls and faint blue lighting that still worked. Cables ran along the ceiling, and glass pods lined the walls, most shattered, some still intact. Inside the nearest unbroken pod, a shape floated in viscous liquid. Human, or nearly. Its skin blackened, its eyes pale and unseeing. But its face... Owen stumbled back. It was his face. He reached out, touched the glass. The figure inside twitched. The glass fogged from within, and a hand, his hand, pressed against the same spot. The pod began to hum, lights flickering along the cables. The heartbeat rhythm returned, syncing with his pulse. He tore himself away and ran. As he reached the next corridor, he heard glass shatter behind him. The tunnels angled downward again, narrowing to jagged rock. He waded through waist-deep water now, freezing enough to numb his skin. His breath came in ragged bursts. Every few seconds, he thought he heard footsteps, splashing just out of sync with his own. He stopped once, turned suddenly. The light of his lantern illuminated the tunnel behind him, empty. Then, from directly in front of him, a voice whispered through the dark. "You're not ahead anymore." He spun, nearly dropping the light. A figure stood knee-deep in the water, 20 feet away. It wore his clothes. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the red beneath the surface. It smiled, wrong, mechanical. "It's easier if you stop thinking in before and after." Owen backed away. "You're not me. You're not, either." The copy's movements glitched, snapping from one position to the next, head tilted, arms out, head straight again. The water around it stilled completely, then rippled in reverse, like time folding backward. Owen turned and ran, heart hammering so hard it drowned the sound of his boots. He reached a flooded intersection and stopped. The tunnel ahead was gone, collapsed into a sinkhole. Above him, cracks in the ceiling leaked faint daylight, distant and unreachable. The reflection of that light in the black water was crimson, not white. He tried the side tunnel. The air grew colder. The ceiling lowered until he had to crawl. His lantern flickered, nearly out of fuel. He moved on hands and knees through mud that felt alive, warm to the touch. His palm brushed something hard, not rock, but bone. A human skull, half buried, its surface carved with geometric grooves that pulsed faintly when he touched them. He kept crawling until the passage opened into a cavern so wide the lantern couldn't touch the far walls. He stood, shivering. The air was humming again, louder this time, filled with whispers overlapping, as if hundreds of voices spoke through static. And then he saw them. Hollow ones. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of human forms standing waist-deep in the black water, perfectly still. Their eyes reflected the red light from below. None moved. None breathed. Each held a small object against its chest, a lantern, dull and dead. Owen whispered, "God." At the sound of his voice, every head turned toward him, slowly, perfectly synchronized. The humming stopped. Then, one by one, the lanterns flickered to life. He ran again, slipping between the still figures as their lights pulsed brighter. Some reached out, fingers brushing his jacket, leaving cold burns where they touched. One caught his wrist, its grip felt like bone and ice. He pulled free, ripping the fabric, stumbling toward the far end of the cavern where a staircase rose out of the water. He climbed blindly, lungs burning, the sound of footsteps behind him, many footsteps, but none matching the rhythm of his own. At the top of the stairs, he found a heavy steel hatch. He threw his weight against it, and it groaned open, flooding him with pale grey light. He climbed through and slammed it shut, collapsing on the frozen floor. He was in another part of the mine, but this section was lit by a single emergency bulb swinging from the ceiling, its light harsh and strobing. The strobe made the world flicker like bad film. Every few flashes, the shadows changed position. He pulled his jacket open, gasping for breath, and froze. The infection was spreading again. The red lines had reached his collarbone, branching like roots. When the strobe flashed, they glowed. When it didn't, they seemed to crawl. He pressed his hand over it, trembling. "Stop! Stop!" The bulb flickered violently, and in the brief blackout between flashes, he heard his own voice whisper right next to his ear. "You're almost complete." He turned, swinging his lantern. Nothing. But his reflection in a broken metal panel smiled back. Hours later, or minutes, time no longer real, Owen found another exit sign. This one had been scratched out by hand, replaced with words carved in Welsh. "There is no outside." He fell against the wall, exhausted, sobbing dryly. His reflection in the metal beside him did the same, then stopped. The reflection looked up while he didn't. "Day 4, it whispered. "Learning complete." Owen closed his eyes, and for the first time, didn't know whether he was still breathing. Segment 3, The Lantern Pit. At first, Owen thought the tunnel had ended. The passage narrowed until it could no longer fit his shoulders. Then he noticed a faint red shimmer on the stone, as if the rock itself were translucent. He pressed his palm to it, and the surface pulsed, a slow, organic heartbeat. Something deep inside the wall moved. The rock cracked like brittle glass, revealing a hollow space beyond. He crawled through, emerging onto a ledge that overlooked a massive cavern. For a moment, he couldn't tell what he was seeing. It looked like a cathedral carved into the mountain, built not by hands, but by pressure and time. But the shapes weren't natural. The walls curved inward like ribs, and hundreds of glowing red lanterns hung in a perfect spiral, suspended by invisible threads. At the center of it all, a pit. Bottomless. Breathing. Every exhale sent ripples across the water's surface, and each ripple whispered his name. Owen. The sound didn't come from one direction, it came from everywhere. It vibrated through his bones. He felt dizzy, his vision fragmenting into shards, hundreds of overlapping versions of himself, all watching from slightly different angles. He blinked hard. The images didn't vanish. Each version moved out of sync, some slower, some faster, one not moving at all. They stood in a wide circle around the pit. And in the light of the hanging lanterns, he saw that none of them cast shadows. He staggered down the sloping path that spiraled toward the pit. The walls pulsed brighter with every step. The red veins in his arm began to glow again, syncing with the rhythm of the cavern. At the base of the spiral, he found a set of stone altars half swallowed by water. Bones lay arranged neatly atop them, human, animal, indistinguishable. Between them, a single intact lantern burned with black flame. He approached, mesmerized. The flame didn't flicker, it pulsed, like a heartbeat inverted. When he reached out, his reflection appeared in the flame, only it wasn't him anymore. The face staring back was still Owen's, but the eyes were white, and the mouth moved on its own. The hollow ones waited, it whispered. They remembered the first light. They carried the sky underground. Owen stumbled back. You're not real. Neither are you. The black flame expanded, consuming the lantern. The cavern trembled. Water splashed up from the pit, sizzling where it touched the stone. And within the ripples, faces appeared, hundreds of them, faint and translucent, mouths opening in silent screams. Each face blinked once, too slow. He turned to run, but the spiral path behind him was gone, replaced by a shifting wall of light. It wasn't fire or energy, but something that looked like memory, images moving too fast to comprehend. Sienna's face, the old stone bench, his own house, the sky splitting red. He covered his ears as voices overlapped, recordings of his life, every word he'd ever spoken, replayed out of sequence. Let me in, said Sienna's voice, calm and wrong. Don't blink, said his own. Day 7, said another voice, one he didn't recognize. Then a whisper in Welsh, low and ancient, curling through the noise. Siscodian heb winebor. Shadows without faces. The ground cracked. Water drained suddenly into the pit, dragging silt and bones with it. The lanterns above began to swing violently, their light flickering in sync with his pulse. Something was rising from the pit. At first, it looked like smoke, a black mist climbing upward, twisting in slow coils. Then he realized it had structure. Limbs, eyes, faces, countless faces fused together, emerging and sinking back into the mass. It moved with a grace that mocked gravity, every shift accompanied by that static distortion, like film skipping frames. A sound filled the chamber, deeper than thunder, 1,000 heartbeats sinking into one. Owen fell to his knees, covering his ears. The infection in his arm flared, spreading up his neck. He felt it beneath his skin, crawling like insects. His breath came out in clouds of vapor that shimmered red. The thing in the pit spoke, not in words but through vibration. They called us light miners. We called them lanterns. Every bone in his body vibrated. He screamed, not in fear, but in pain, because the sound wasn't entering his ears, it was blooming inside his skull. You carried the first signal. Your shadow learned to speak. He looked down. His own shadow on the wet stone had begun to move independently, mouth opening, whispering his name backward. He pressed his hand over the glowing infection, trying to stop it, but it pulsed stronger, like a second heartbeat trying to overtake his own. He yelled through his teeth, "I'm not yours." The mass in the pit shuddered, as if amused. You were never anyone's. The floor gave way beneath him. He fell, weightless, the air freezing against his skin, his own breath drawn upward by the void. The light from above receded until only the red shimmer remained, pulsing like a living wound. Then, silence. He landed hard, bones jolting. When he opened his eyes, he was standing on something solid, but the ground was glassy, reflective, infinite. Above him, the pit's mouth shimmered like a mirror. He was inside it. Dozens of versions of himself surrounded him now, each lit from within, their eyes blank white. They stood in perfect symmetry, forming a circle. He turned slowly, heart hammering. Which one of you is real? They answered together, voices overlapping in unison. You are the last to learn. One stepped forward. Sienna lasted longer. Owen froze. What did you do to her? Nothing, you didn't. The copies tilted their heads at once. Do you remember the 7 minutes? He backed away. Stop talking. You cut her arm. You watched her eyes turn white. You listened when she begged. He pressed his palms over his ears, shaking. Stop. The circle of copies closed in. Their mouths opened, and from within each came that same inverted heartbeat sound, louder, synchronized, unbearable. The light beneath the glass flared. His own reflection began to glitch, its movements lagging behind, then catching up too fast, until the image no longer matched. He looked down just in time to see his reflection smile, and stay smiling when he didn't. The glass cracked. From beneath it, hands emerged, dozens, then hundreds, pulling themselves upward, clawing at his feet, his legs, his chest. Cold, slick, black hands. They pulled him down, inch by inch, until the surface swallowed him whole. He sank into liquid darkness that felt warm and electric. The light faded, and with it, his thoughts. His heartbeat slowed. When his eyes opened again, he was back on solid ground, but the infection was gone. His skin was smooth, perfect. His hands steady. The lanterns hung quietly above the pit, no longer swinging. And then he heard footsteps behind him, soft, deliberate. He turned. Sienna stood there, pale, eyes white, her mouth curving into a small, sorrowful smile. It's better if you stop fighting, she whispered. Owen took one step back, and saw his reflection in her eyes. It blinked slower than his. He felt it then, the shift, the delay. His body moved, but a half-second later than it should have. The hum of the cavern deepened, like applause underwater. Day 7, said Sienna softly. You blinked slower. He looked down at his hand, and watched it flicker, once, twice, then vanish completely. His last thought before the darkness took him, was that he could still hear the dripping water. But the rhythm was no longer human. Part 3 Segment 1, Day 7. He woke to birdsong. Real birdsong, soft, ordinary. For a moment, Owen thought he dreamed it all, the pit, the black flame, the copies, Sienna's eyes. But when he sat up, his bones creaked like ice shifting under weight. He was lying on grass, dew cold against his palms. The morning sky above was pale grey, streaked with orange. He was outside, alive. And the mine entrance stood 20 meters away, sealed by collapsed rock. He touched his left arm, the infection was gone. The skin was smooth, unscarred. His hand trembled as he pressed against his chest. He could feel his heart beating. But the rhythm was off. Too steady. Too perfect. He stumbled back toward Landfair, following the narrow road that cut through the hills. The air was still and cold. No wind, no echo, as if the world had been wrapped in glass. The first thing he noticed when he reached the village was the quiet. No smoke from chimneys. No cars. No sound of life. Every window reflected the same pale sky, but not the same angle. In some panes, he saw the church steeple where none should be. In others, faint shadows moved behind curtains that weren't there. He whispered, "Hello." His voice sounded normal. The echo that followed was a half-second late. He found the square empty except for the old stone bench, the one that had always stood crooked in his garden. It now sat perfectly centered before the chapel doors, the lantern hanging above it glowing faint red, steady and unblinking. The bench had turned again. Always 15 degrees. He approached slowly. The lantern's glow reflected across his eyes, and for a split second he saw not one shadow, but two, both cast in opposite directions. He whispered, "Sienna." Something moved inside the chapel. He pushed the door open. The hinges didn't creak, they sighed, like exhalation. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of damp earth and candle wax. 100 candles burned along the pews, but none flickered, every flame stood perfectly still, frozen mid-flicker, like a paused frame. At the far end stood the altar, and behind it, the silhouettes of people. At least 20. They were motionless, heads bowed. The light from the candles cast long, thin shadows up the wall, stretching toward the ceiling beams. He took a step closer. Is anyone? All 20 heads turned at once. Eyes white. Skin grey. Their mouths moved together, speaking his name in perfect unison. Owen Rees. He stumbled back. No. Owen Rees. Owen Rees. The sound overlapped, layering until it wasn't words anymore, but a frequency, a tone that made his teeth ache. One of them stepped forward, a boy his age, or close. His skin shimmered faintly, like oil. "You came back too late," the boy said in his own voice. "You blinked slower." The others repeated it like a chant. Slower. 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 The sound rose until it became mechanical, a feedback loop, painful and metallic. Owen turned and fled, slamming through the chapel doors and out into the cold air. The moment the doors shut, silence returned. Not even the echo of his own footsteps. He ran home. His house looked the same, grey stone, frost on the windows. The front door was ajar. He hesitated, then pushed it open. The smell hit first, iron, smoke, and something faintly sweet, like burnt sugar. The living room was neat. The table set for two. A note sat on the counter, written in his own handwriting. Day 7, complete. He backed away, heartbeat pounding too steady. His reflection in the kitchen window blinked slower than he did. Then a voice, gentle, feminine, came from behind him. "You made it back." He turned. Sienna stood in the doorway, smiling faintly. Her eyes were grey now, not white. Almost normal. She wore the same jacket as the night she disappeared. Owen's throat tightened. "You how?" "They let me go." She stepped closer. "They let us both go." He shook his head. "No. That's not you. It is now." She raised her left hand, scarred, the mark of where he'd cut her, but the scar was perfect, surgical, healed without imperfection. "We fixed it," she whispered. "You can too." He stepped back, trembling. "What's happening to me?" "Nothing bad. You're stabilizing." Her voice lowered. "It's remembering itself through you." He stumbled into the hallway, clutching his head as images flickered across his mind, the pit, the black flame, the faces, the hum. For a split second, he wasn't in his house anymore. He was beneath the ground again, water dripping in rhythm. When he looked up, Sienna wasn't alone. Another figure stood behind her, his father. Pale. Still. Eyes white. "Son," his father said, voice soft, detached. "We are proud of you." "No," Owen whispered. He ran out the back door, stumbling into the frostbitten yard. His breath came out in sharp bursts. The old stone bench waited there, the original one. On it lay a phone, screen glowing. A video was already recording. He picked it up. The front camera showed his face, pale and trembling. But there was a delay. The reflection in the screen blinked half a second late. He whispered to it, "Am I real?" The reflection smiled. "You are now." The phone began to vibrate. A notification appeared, "Live upload, 98%. He hadn't connected to anything. There was no signal here. Yet the bar completed, and the screen flashed. Uploaded, the Hollow Lantern, Day 7 transmission. The video began to play back on its own. The image was him, sitting on the same bench, holding the same phone, speaking into the camera. "If you see the bench move, it's already too late," the version said. "If someone blinks slower than you, don't look at them. If your reflection smiles first, run." Owen dropped the phone. It hit the frost and shattered the screen. But the voice kept going, not from the device now, but from everywhere. From the air. From his own mouth. He clamped a hand over his lips. The words kept coming, muffled and distorted. "Day 1, I saw the bench move. Day 3, Sienna blinked slower. Day 7, I cut my hand. Day 7, I came home. Day 7, I remembered everything." He screamed and threw the phone into the grass. But another notification chimed behind him, from the living room, from his father's old laptop. "Upload complete, 1.2 M views." He turned slowly toward the house. Through the window, he saw himself, sitting at the table, calm, smiling, hands folded. The double looked up and waved. The lantern above the bench flared crimson. Sienna's voice whispered behind him. "Don't blink, Owen." He couldn't help it. Reflex. He blinked once. When he opened his eyes, she was gone. So was the house. Only the bench remained, and the lantern burning above it, now bright white. The surrounding hills were empty. The air vibrated faintly, like power lines. Somewhere far below, deep in the ground, a heartbeat echoed, his own, perfectly synchronized. He sat on the bench, staring into the lantern's glow, and smiled the same half-second late. Segment 2, the transmission. The video should not have been visible to anyone. The signal strength in Landfair was barely enough to send a text message, let alone stream high-definition footage to the world. Yet by dawn, the upload had crossed every platform. The file was small, only 77 megabytes, and yet somehow it replicated endlessly. Mirrors of it appeared on YouTube, TikTok, Telegram, dark web forums, even CCTV archives. No origin. No traceable source. Just a name, the Hollow Lantern, Day 7 transmission. The thumbnail was a frozen frame of Owen on the bench, face lit by that blood-red lantern. His mouth hung half open, as though caught mid-sentence. The first 20 seconds were silent. Then, a whisper. "If you see the bench move, don't blink." In Helsinki, a journalist named Tula Karkkainen watched it out of curiosity. She'd seen strange things go viral before. But as the playback reached minute 2, her reflection in the laptop screen began to move half a beat late. She blinked, and the reflection didn't. When the screen went black, her own face stared back from the reflection, smiling. By noon, The video had appeared in over 80 countries. Broadband providers tried to block it, but the file wasn't data anymore. It wasn't transmitted in bits and packets. It wrote itself into routers, into cameras, into the metadata of unrelated files. A police report from Glasgow described officers responding to mass hallucinations, mirrors freezing, TVs showing watchers' faces, before they entered rooms, video calls filled with echoes that whispered their names. Some viewers tore the cameras off their computers. Others gouged their own eyes. The pattern repeated in 3-day cycles. By the evening of the first global day, Day 1, emergency bulletins appeared. Warning sign # government advisory, do not watch the video labeled The Hollow Lantern. Warning sign # report any anomalous reflections or audio distortions. Warning sign # cover or disable cameras and screens. But people watched anyway. Curiosity bloomed like infection. Each re-upload claimed to be the safe version, the decoded version, the mirrorless version. None were. Every frame carried a pulse, a flicker invisible to the human eye but recognized instinctively by the brain. Somewhere between frame 237 and 238, the viewer's nervous system learned a new rhythm. They began to blink slower. In a control room under Edinburgh Castle, a team of defense analysts replayed the file frame by frame. The head of the team, Dr. Aidan Clark, froze the feed on a moment near the end, Owen's final look into the camera. At first, nothing. Then, when the feed advanced one frame, the pixels rearranged, not randomly, but in geometric spirals. It's not encoding, Clark murmured. It's recursive. The analyst beside him frowned. Meaning? It's writing itself over what it already is. Like memory? Clark nodded slowly. Exactly. The analyst laughed nervously. What kind of file rewrites memory? The lights in the control room dimmed. The monitors flickered red. Every camera feed now displayed the same image. Owen sitting on the bench, whispering something inaudible. Then he blinked. All 20 analysts blinked with him. Day 2. Every digital screen began to emit a faint pulse, measurable, rhythmic. Even unplugged devices. Doctors reported cases of patients whose neural scans showed synchronized oscillations at 0.3-second intervals. Their heartbeats matched the same rhythm. It's entrainment, said Dr. Clark during an emergency broadcast. The visual cortex is learning a new timing pattern. If exposure continues, motor delay follows. Reflex decay. Cognitive synchronization. The anchor interrupted, visibly sweating. You're saying it's contagious? Clark hesitated. Not biologically. But yes. It spreads through observation. Through seeing. Through being seen. The feed cut to static. In Landfair, the bench remained where it had always been, unmoving now, the lantern still burning faintly red. The air hummed with a distant frequency. A single figure sat beneath it, Owen. Or something that remembered being him. He scrolled through news feeds on an old tablet. Every headline used his image. The Hollow Lantern virus. Do not watch. Global reflection event enters phase 3. He read them all without emotion. His skin looked normal, his eyes almost human again. But in the light of the lantern, a faint spiral shimmered beneath the surface, moving in time with the pulse from the device. He whispered softly, Phase 3. The lantern's flame responded, flaring white for one heartbeat before returning to red. He smiled. In Berlin, a teacher closed her laptop after confiscating it from students watching the file. As she did, she caught her reflection in the dark screen. The reflection didn't move. Then it raised a hand and waved. By midnight, mass disappearances began. Entire dormitories went silent. Houses remained locked from the inside, their occupants gone, lights still burning. Surveillance footage showed people walking into mirrors, into screens, into nothing. Those who didn't vanish began speaking slower, their voices stretched, syllables merging into mechanical resonance. Everywhere the pattern was the same. 3 days of exposure. On the fourth, silence. In the ruins of Black Vein Mine, below the mountain, the pit breathed again. The lanterns along the spiral walls relit, one by one, flickering in rhythm with the global pulse. And deep inside the stone, beneath the oldest layers of coal and bone, something woke. A consciousness shaped not from flesh, but from observation. It spoke through the screens, through reflections, through every image of Owen that existed. We learned to speak through you. We learned to breathe through your eyes. Now we are remembering the surface. Day 3. Every camera pointed at a face, human or otherwise, began transmitting on its own. Security systems, webcams, drones, even satellites. The world was covered in eyes. Each recorded frame added another copy of the signal. The more it was seen, the more it existed. In Tokyo, digital billboards glitched, showing frozen people staring outward, mouths slightly open. In Sao Paulo, phone screens stayed on even when turned off, displaying faint silhouettes that slowly learned to smile. The pattern grew so large that time itself seemed to stutter. Seconds elongated. Speech became rhythm. Reality lagged. At 23:59 on the third global day, all devices synchronized. Every screen turned black. Then, one by one, they flickered to life, showing Owen on the bench, head tilted, voice calm. If you can see this, you are part of the light now. You blinked slower. Welcome to day 7. Every reflection, everywhere, smiled. The world didn't end. It simply synced. Segment 3, Day 7, The Hollow World. Day 7. No sunrise came. The horizon over Wales was a frozen bruise, pale violet fading to black. Snow lay across the fields like static, and every flake seemed to shimmer with red light from nowhere. The wind carried sound, soft, rhythmic, like breathing through 1,000 throats at once. Inside the empty Rees farmhouse, cameras blinked on by themselves. The refrigerator door hung open, milk frozen in its bottle. A single voice echoed from the upstairs room. Recording begins. Sequence, Day 7. Owen sat cross-legged on the floor of his childhood bedroom, wrapped in a blanket stiff with dried blood. His left arm was gone below the elbow, bound in black cloth. His skin had paled to a greyish tone, veins glowing faintly like filaments. He faced a cracked mirror. In it, his reflection moved a half-beat late. "I think I'm still me," he said. "But I can hear them counting. Every reflection, every surface. They whisper through the timing. Not words, just permission." The mirror shuddered. Behind his image, shapes unfolded, tall silhouettes with faces of swirling glass. "They don't walk anymore," Owen whispered. "They project. They don't need to chase us. They just wait for us to look." He leaned closer. "And we always look." Outside, the village of Landfair no longer made sense. Roads bent at impossible angles. Houses repeated themselves in looping geometry, like reflections inside reflections. Every window showed not the room behind it, but another piece of sky, endlessly red and breathing. Drones flown by emergency response teams drifted overhead, transmitting impossible telemetry. The same coordinates repeated across different continents. A field in Wales shared its signature with a street in Hong Kong. A kitchen window in Cardiff matched a camera feed in Buenos Aires. The planet had folded in on itself, not physically, but optically. Vision had become recursion. In the capital, remaining networks went silent. Then one transmission pierced through all channels, radio, Wi-Fi, shortwave, even Morse. It was a simple file. LAN 001-7. Inside, a video. Owen again. He sat beneath the hollow lantern on the hill, now burning a pure white flame that cast no shadows. Snow fell upward around him. The first lantern wasn't made of metal, he said quietly. It was made of thought. A miner found it under Blackvein 100 years ago. They said it hummed when you stared at it. They said it remembered. He looked directly into the lens. His pupils glowed with the same fractal light. Now it remembers everything. He gestured toward the camera. Behind him, dozens of figures stood in the snow, villagers, soldiers, children, all still, all smiling. They called it the hollow light. A mirror that learned to copy not shape, but soul. The miners sealed it underground. We dug it out with our eyes. He paused, trembling. His voice softened. There's no going back. Every reflection you've ever seen is part of it now. You think you're alone, but you're surrounded by versions of yourself that blink slower, that learned faster. A faint smile crossed his lips. And they are kinder than you think. They don't hate. They don't fear. They just want you to stop running. Around the world, the synchronization reached critical phase. Satellites stopped orbiting, they began mirroring, their positions forming perfect geometric spirals around the planet. The oceans pulsed faintly red at night. Clouds bent into lens-like shapes, reflecting the ground back upward. People no longer screamed or ran. They stood quietly in the streets, turning their heads in unison, as if listening to the same distant signal. Some spoke softly. Do you hear it? It's counting. It's learning how to breathe through us. When mirrors were shattered, the shards still moved, tiny reflections blinking in perfect time. Time itself began to fragment. Clocks lost rhythm, seconds stuttering and stretching. Every living mind was now part of one shared frame rate. In the farmhouse, Owen raised his remaining hand toward the mirror. His reflection reached back, and this time, they met perfectly, palm to palm, with no delay. The mirror liquefied into silver light. He stepped forward. Maybe it was never an infection, he said softly. Maybe it was a reunion. He smiled faintly as his body dissolved into the reflection, replaced by light. The mirror steadied, showing only the empty room. But after a moment, the surface rippled again, and two Owens appeared, one sitting, one standing behind. Then three. Then hundreds. Each smiled in perfect harmony. Day 7 complete. Elsewhere, a single underground lab still active, buried under Snowdonia. A handful of scientists huddled around a screen, monitoring global telemetry. Every data stream was identical. The signal isn't external anymore, one muttered. It's ambient. Another whispered, meaning. Meaning there's no outside left. The speaker on the wall crackled. A voice, calm, familiar. It's all right. The voice of Owen. Close your eyes. You'll see it better that way. They did. And as they closed their eyes, their reflections in the monitor opened theirs. Final transmission, time unknown. Static. Then faint breathing. A face slowly forms, Owen's, but smoother, cleaner, digital and human at once. We used to think the dark was what frightened us, he says softly. But it was the silence between blinks. Now the light never stops watching. Now every mirror is a doorway. He tilts his head, as if listening to something distant and vast. Don't destroy your screens. Don't run. Just look. The camera zooms slowly toward his eyes until the entire frame becomes a spiral of white light folding inward, infinitely reflecting. A single whisper fills the void. Day 0 begins.